This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. The water shortage in the capital continues, and the heat doesn't make it any easier. Dengue fever cases spike globally, and I go into the jungle to discover why it is there is such a distinct lack of birds. But firstly, our headline story. It is not good news if you live in the capital, as it has been announced that the water shortages are likely to persist throughout April. Many taps in Phnom Penh have run dry and are likely to stay dry until after the new year. Many residents now, instead of having the convenience of just turning on a tap for fresh water, have to visit standpipes or collect bottled water. And in this heat, many are not happy. Water supply shortages will continue in Phnom Penh until at least late April, due to an extended period of dry weather. This week, the Phnom Penh Water Authority has imposed several austerity measures for residents and businesses in affected areas due to a very low supply of clean, fresh water. The Water Authority itself has asked businesses to save water by reducing daily consumption and stop using water from the state water source if possible, and of course to build reservoir tanks to try and conserve water. Also ask customers to avoid the use of motorised pumps, as these can greatly increase the usage of water and would deplete the now critical supplies even further. Larger scale businesses are also being warned that they will suffer disruptions over the next coming weeks, especially for companies that rely on large quantities of municipal water for operations, businesses like beverage companies and golf courses. The advice from the Water Authority is crystal clear, just like a river stream. People need to stock up on drinking water, and if your water supply is cut, please do note, when it is restored, you need to run your taps for several minutes before using that water, as the pressure will be low and the water quality may be of a poor standard. It all sounds rather bleak, doesn't it? But with these recent rains, is there literally a few clouds with a few silver linings on the horizon? One of the world's most endangered birds has been found in Cambodia. The white-shouldered ibis is critically endangered and is listed on the ICN Red List. And according to the Ministry of Environment, the ibis can be seen in Cambodia all year round. But their success seems to be rather rare in the bird world, as the stock of birds within Cambodia appears to be severely depleted due to widespread snaring. I, myself, have discovered looking for birds in Cambodia can be rather a disappointing affair, as so often the trees are all but silent, devoid of any avian wildlife. To show you what I mean by this, I headed to Angkor Wat Archaeological Park to give you a clearer idea. So I'm being completely fair in what I'm saying. I've come to hear the jungle itself that surrounds Angkor Wat. Now do remember that the archaeological park covers 400 square kilometres. 400 square kilometres. That's an awfully large bit of space. So I could have gone to a local park or a slightly wooded residential area, but no, I'm giving this the best test I possibly can, and that is in the largest bit of greenery that's available. And even here, what we note is there is a stark lack of birds. But you should be saying, well, how can you say that? Well, I'm comparing it to what I see in Thailand, because I'm now travelling an awful lot to Thailand as Mr. B, the temple man, and what I have seen has really shocked me. Listen.
there's a solitary bird calling. Now, I've deliberately set up my camera here because of that one bird. You know, I walked along and found him and thought, that's what I want. But there's something else. If you're a bit of a clever clogs, you may say, well, you're kind of cheating because you're using a directional microphone. And you would be right, because this is built to pick up my sound, not the sound around me. So I'm going to turn this off and use the microphone on the camera, which is a surround microphone which will pick up all sound. But even then, the amount of birds that you hear is negligible. So it's off with the microphone, the directional mic. And we just walk into the jungle. Remember, 400 square kilometres. And you can still hear that one bird. This is absolutely shocking. And I know the reason why. Can you hear him? That single solitary bird. The directional microphone is in my pocket. The microphone being used is the one on the camera that collects all sound from around, all the ambient sound. It's not built just to pick up my voice, it picks up everything. And what you're not hearing is birds, apart from our solitary little friend there, which I hope the camera is picking up. And the reason for this, and what I have seen spending an awful lot of time in an environment like this, and even at Angkor Wat, I have seen young men walking these very paths carrying snares. So even here, unfortunately, in the heritage park itself, there is an awful lot of snaring going on.
And to see young men walking in Angkor Wat Park carrying snares openly, I find extremely distressing. And it does give a very clear indication as to why the forest has fallen silent in some areas. But here is the tragedy. There simply is no excuse to snare animals, especially in such a wholesale manner, where any creature caught in a snare is killed. It is wholesale slaughter that does not discriminate. The damage being done is unimaginable. But there is a glimmer of hope, as at current, phase 2 of the latest anti-snare campaign is underway. The Ministry of Environment has said that the second phase of the campaign will run up to July of 2023. The campaign is being implemented in 6 provinces, including Siem Reap. The campaign itself focuses on preventing wildlife trafficking and strengthening law enforcement. The main outcomes of the conservation campaign is to change the behaviour of people who are hunting wild game. The campaign itself also aims to discourage the sale and consumption of any wild meat. But there is another side to all this, and that is still very much seen in that snaring is socially acceptable, and it seems to be a sport that is enjoyed by many. For in 2021 alone, authorities seized 1,200 homemade guns, and they also impounded 1.5 tons of bushmeat. And if you ever want to understand how devastating the snaring problem is, well, just go to a wooded area, stand there and listen. Then, with your ears, you will see how snares are silently killing off the wildlife of Cambodia. And now to Crime Watch, a quick look at some of those crime stories that this week really caught the public's imagination. Firstly, a gunman shot his wife, his brother, and then his sister-in-law in a murderous rampage in Siem Reap. After the bloody carnage, he then turned the gun on himself. The man was named as Apnuk. He shot and killed his brother-in-law at his house. He then got on a moto and travelled to a store in Siem Reap Central Market. It was there that he shot and killed his ex-wife and severely injured his sister-in-law. The gunman then turned the gun on himself. But he did not die, and this, oddly, seems to happen rather a lot in these incidents where the gunmen attempt to kill themselves, but nearly always fail. Sources say that the gunman and his wife had just divorced, and that the shooting was due to a property dispute. Next on our crime beat, we have the most curious case of a British man found dead in a Campot sewer. Villagers discovered the body of a British national in the early afternoon. The deceased has been named as Charlie Gray. His corpse was found face down in the water, and villagers immediately reported it to the local police. When the police arrived at the scene, they conducted a preliminary autopsy to determine the cause of death. What they say is that the man fell face down into that sewer and he asphyxiated. But this to many seems very unlikely indeed, and after more than a few eyebrows were raised, a further investigation is underway. Finally, on our crime carousel, we have the case of the fake teacher who raped a 13-year-old girl. A Phnom Penh man who conned a mother into letting him take her 13-year-old daughter for a fake exam. But what he in fact did was he abducted her and raped her. The 30-year-old Cambodian man was arrested by the police, and it seems the man appears to have convinced the family of the victim that he was a 9th grade teacher, and he had contacted the girl's father on several occasions, and he had convinced him that his daughter needed to take an exam. He then rode a motorcycle to pick up the girl, but instead of going to a school, the man took the girl to another location, and in a bathroom, he threatened her with a knife and then raped her. He has been charged and is now awaiting trial. Dengue cases are worryingly 3 times higher than last year, and that is causing very grave concern. At current, almost half of the world's population, about 4 billion people, live in areas with a risk of catching dengue fever. And each year, 400 million people are infected. Of those, 100 million people do get sick. And for many, it is quite simply a death sentence. The disease is now endemic in more than 100 countries, including the Americas. Worryingly, dengue is spreading to new areas, including Europe, where cases have now been reported for the first time in France and Croatia. It seems that nothing can stop the relentless assault of the dengue virus, and Cambodia, for one, has been hit harder than normal. In the first 7 weeks of the year, Cambodia has had more than 750 cases of dengue fever, of which 2 have proven to be fatal. The increase was almost 3 times higher than the same period last year, according to the National Dengue Control Programme. And the director of the NDCP said in the beginning of the year there were 750 patients compared to only 291 last year. And rather gravely, he estimates that the number of dengue cases will increase to over 20,000 by the end of the year, compared to only 12,000 last year. In a statement, he said, "The frequency of cases this year is due to the dengue cycle. Typically, every 5 to 6 years, this disease seems to peak, like in 2019, when there was a large-scale outbreak. Currently, it is in the 4th year of that cycle." He added,
Dengue fever is not a disease that is the responsibility of the health ministry alone. It needs the participation of the general population across the country. Everyone must work together to prevent the mosquitoes from breeding. And there has been a huge fumigation campaign that is currently underway in the capital and the provinces. But there are many medical professionals that are bracing themselves for what they think will be a terrible year for dengue fever, as yet again the deadliest killer known to man, the mosquito, racks up yet more fatalities to its already enormous tally.
And now for a small dollop of business news. And the future for the kingdom is looking rather bright, as the World Bank has said that Cambodia's projected growth forecast will be over 5% for 2023. And the bank is not just posting this as a regional increase, as it has lowered the prospects for neighbouring countries. For both Vietnam and Thailand's forecasts were downgraded. So it seems that the kingdom is bucking a trend that has its neighbours slipping in the GDP ranking, whilst Cambodia's remarkable growth forecasts still march on.
Cambodia has the third fastest growth rate in the Southeast Asia region, after Vietnam and the Philippines. According to the World Bank report, growth in developing East Asia and the Pacific region is forecast to accelerate in 2023 as China's economy reopens. But the pace of growth in most of those economies in the rest of the region is anticipated to ease after a very strong rebound last year. Economic performance across the region, while robust, could be held back this year by slowing global growth, elevated commodity prices and a tightening of financial conditions in response to persistent inflation, said the report. Growth in developing East Asian countries is forecast to accelerate to 5.1% in 2023, and that is compared to just 3.5% in 2022. The World Bank did add a caution, saying most major economies of the Pacific region have come through the difficulties of the pandemic, but they must now navigate a changed global landscape, and there is much work left to do to boost both innovation and productivity.
And now it's time to look at our sports news. The quickest look at the Premiership results this week, because we spent way too much time in the jungle hunting for birds. But we were aiming just to look at them, not to kill them. Top left-hand corner, Man United 2-0 against Everton. They'll be very pleased with that. They've been a bit erratic of late. But unfortunately for them, their main rival, which we see bottom right, Man City, beat Southampton 4-1. Now there's another... Sorry, I'm already laughing just looking at the result. Wolves beat Chelsea 1-0. That's just brilliant. Well done, Wolves, beating Chelsea. That is hysterical. But also, there was another beating to be had, and it was our adopted team, Nottingham Forest, went down 2-0 at Aston Villa. And if we just flip over to the bottom of the Premiership table, we will see our delightfully named and adopted team, Nottingham Forest, is in the relegation zone. They're now in 18th place. So if they don't start scoring some points, we won't see them next season. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. And here is the tale of next week. It is thunderclouds, it is regular clouds, it is white puffy clouds, it is sunshine. But the dominant features will be the humidity and the potential for some severe rain. The Weather Centre is saying there could be some real downbursts. And from what we've seen across the capital over the past week, well, expect more of the same. This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly roundup.